Hi there, welcome to the Fierce Factor podcast. I'm your host, Kaylee Lindholm. And I think it's time for us women to shift the conversation in business and step into our feminine leadership to do the most iconic work the aesthetic industry has ever seen. Each week, I'll be bringing a powerful dose of strategy, sarcasm, solutions, and sass that will rev up your creativity and ignite your brilliance as you link arms with me along our shared path of personal and professional growth in 20 minutes or less. Let's go. Hello, Fierce Factor. Welcome back to this incredible episode number 151. I am super pumped. I know I'm always pumped about every episode. I'm not going to lie, but this is a really special episode for me. We are continuing on with our series around expert guest interviews featuring incredible leaders in our space. And I thought it would be really appropriate for us to talk to a leader that is behind the scenes, somebody that truly is everything for me and our company, my partner in crime, and the woman who I brought on to help me build this business and who has truly orchestrated, the symphony of what KLC is. I'm interviewing today our executive business coordinator, Miss Shannon Sanchez. Hi, Shannon.
Hello. That was quite a generous introduction, I must say.
Well, I could go on for hours. We tend to do this like doting on each other thing, but it's just the mutual love. And today, this episode, when I think about the women that we bring on to the podcast, there's a lot of avenues to go. I could go ask people to come on who have big following that could help share influence of this podcast, which is amazing. I could bring on our clients who have shared in experiential growth with us, which is also amazing. Last week you heard, or 2 weeks ago, you heard from Vaughn, who's an industry partner of ours. And I think that's amazing too. What I think is missing, and I don't hear enough about on podcasts and in our industry in particular, is conversations with the people who are the actual lifeline, the bloodline behind what makes female entrepreneurs and these businesses that we're building successful. And I get a regular comment. It's like this, the "What would Jesus do" bracelet. It's like the "How do I find a Shannon" bracelet. Like, where is my Shannon? And so there's everyone's got a Karen. I've got 3 Shannons actually in my life, but this is the Shannon. And everybody, if hashtag, right? Everybody who listens to this who knows Shannon is nodding right now, amen, high five. And by the way, share this post and give a tag or mention if she has touched your life in some way. But Shannon is one of those stories of tremendous success that we teach about and we talk about, right? We're preaching the preach all the time about finding great people for the people they are, and then teaching them how to do the things. So she's quite self-taught. She does a lot of things I don't know how to do. So I'll start by saying that. But she is somebody that we can learn so much from. So I'm so excited to have you here, Shannon. Do you want to share the story of how we found each other, or do you want me to? We have different versions.
Yes, I know we do. I can share my version first. So First of all, it's truly an honor to be here. This is way outside my comfort zone, which we'll get to. But yeah, so Kaylee and I met through our kids playing baseball together. 5 years old, playing baseball, cutest little guys. And I had always found what Kaylee did and her business so interesting, always found myself asking her about it and what was new, what was going on. And for me, long story short, when she mentioned that she was looking to bring someone on part-time, I had been a stay-at-home mom since I had my 2 kids and was looking to get back into the workforce, and got to talking about it with Kaylee and thought, gosh, I don't know how she would feel about it, but I love hearing about what she does. It sounds so interesting. She's touching so many people's lives and helping them grow their business and make it what they want it to be. And I would love to be a part of that. So just floated it out there, the idea of me coming on and giving little old me a chance. And so that's how the story goes in my book. And she was open to that. So, and here we are today, 3 years later.
I love that. So my version, very similar. Yes, our kids play baseball, but that's about it. But no, she was like the tea mom that would always put together like the most beautiful just programming of what the season would look like. She had the schedule and it was organized and it was pretty. You know, those people that are like attention to detail and they're creative. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this woman's genius. Especially for the fact that when it was my turn as like, you know, I'm mother of the year, right? She would send me a text message like the week that I had snack. And she's like, hey, just a reminder, you're on snack duty this week. By the way, like, here's a link to buy stuff. I can run to the store. Or she would even say sometimes like, oh, I have extra. I just have them laying around. I'll just put these little like cute bags together. She would like do it for me and then make it like mine, you know? And I'm like, I need this woman in my life more. So she was like someone I knew I needed to recruit. So you guys know I say ABR, always be recruiting. So she was like manifested. And when she asked for the job, I was like, this is like God sent for sure. And it has been beyond my wildest dreams. So Shannon really started when I was just a solopreneur. I had a few contracted employees, but nobody on the real team. And she came in, to really organize the back end of the business, put the systems in place. And it was really interesting because I think you'd been on jury duty, like in the early weeks that we started. And there was a lawsuit around someone who didn't have, or there was like evidence that was found in SOPs or something like that, right? Yeah. Exactly. And so she was like, we need SOPs. Like, this is all about, she's like this SOP. For those of you who don't know SOP, standard operating procedure, she's the SOP queen. So if you need those in your business, I got your secret weapon right here. So she just completely came in and built systems for everything. It was amazing. And long story short, now several years later, 3 years in, Shannon has really taken over all of the direction in terms of like building project management, really, and all of the initiatives in our business, backend, like building out what customer support looks like in our company, managing that downstream to everybody and outstream, right, to everybody in our ecosystem, customers and all of those. So I wanted to take the time today to really talk about what it takes to find a mission-driven employee. And you know, Shannon is somebody, and I'm going to let her talk too, by the way, but just speaking from my perspective, is somebody that is your like ideal employee who loves her job and gets up and does what she does every day for her customer. We just love our people that we work with. And so we love talking about their successes and all of those things. And it's just a different experience when you have employees on your team that love the work they do versus, well, how much am I making? You know, of course, that's part of the equation, but it's not a constant conversation about what's in it for me. It's like, as a leader, you want to continue giving to those people and you want to make it, you know, an environment where they can succeed in every single way because they're just a great person. And I think that's why I'm constantly asked, how do I find a Shannon, right? Besides the skills. So I wanted to interview you, Shannon, today to talk about this sort of challenge around finding great people and some of your thoughts and perspectives to help women, you know, leaders and employees too, who are looking for alignment in their professional careers and in their companies to find people who are, toe to toe with them in terms of the mission of the company. So when you say, I'll start off by asking you, you know, when someone asks you, they ask us all the time, right? How do I find a Shannon? What comes to mind for you? What would you say as an answer to that question?
Yeah. So for me, and I know you know me so well, Kaylee, but when I hear that, I do squirm a little bit and feel a little bit shy or bashful or like they're not talking about me, because I think a lot of times, A, we're hard on ourselves, and B, we don't give ourselves credit as to our skills and the things we can bring to the table. But I think ultimately for me, I'm a loyal person. I work hard. I want to do the best. I want to support and help not only the company, but the clients that we serve in any way possible. And I pride myself in that. And so I think I'm willing to do the work. I'm willing to figure things out and not shy away from that. And I think I've come to realize in sitting in on all of our meetings with our clients and listening to them through their struggles to find good employees. And when they do find them, the things that they say, I realize, wow, you know, the things that I have deemed small, but I do take great pride in and hold to a high value. Those are the things that are really sought after and mean a ton to business owners who, these are beautiful businesses and their business baby that they've created. Yes, business baby. So I find that putting a focus on the person and who they are versus necessarily their skills, because a lot of the things I do now, I didn't know how to do, but I was willing to utilize tools that I could find on the internet or picking other people's brains who were experts at those things and figured out how to do them for myself. So I think just really getting to know somebody and what they value and who they are as a person and how they carry themselves in their day-to-day life can really carry over and does carry over into how they act as a professional. So, yeah.
Well, I think too, because, I ask myself, why is it so challenging to find somebody that has those values? And I think a lot of times we're just not looking for them. We forget, like in the hiring process, right? Like we create a job description and guess how much it talks about character, or ethics or values right? So I think we forget that is what we are hiring for, the person, not the position.
Exactly. And I think we talk about that a lot when we're talking about hiring and stacking the bench and looking for team. Is the tactical things and the activities, those can be taught to somebody, but who someone is at their core, the type of person that they are, those are the things that can't be taught. That's part of their DNA. That's part of who they are as a person. So I think focusing on those things and reminding yourself that those other tactical things that can be taught, ultimately, that's a great place to start.
Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking back. So like when we run our master classes, we put out questionnaires because I don't want to just like teach at somebody. I want to know like, what are the challenges you're really having and what top 3 things would you like me to answer in this course, And I mean, how many times, Shan, have we been asked, how do I get my team to align with our mission? Like how I feel like that's just constant. It's like building culture, getting team on board, getting them like enrolling them in and like getting them to like buy into this thing. From your perspective, what does that even mean? Like, what does it mean for someone to really be bought into the mission of their company?
Yeah. And you're right. We hear that a ton weekly, I would even say. And I think for me, and something you have done so well from the get-go, is you were always clear on what we stand for as a company, what our goals are as a company, our mission. That was all laid out to me when I first started before, we even chatted about and explored what this might look like. It was like, take a look at my mission, my vision, my values, and, let me know your thoughts on it. And so I think having a really clear leader allows the employees to be really clear on what the focus is, what the ultimate goal is, and just being bought into that. It's understanding and being clear on those things and doing anything you can to support that. So it's going above and beyond what your air quotes, what your responsibilities are. For me, and maybe it sounds cheesy to say, I truly feel like I would do anything, anything you need me to do, anything the business needs me to do. For instance, this right here. One of our core values is challenge ourselves to grow. And I have done a lot of things that have challenged me to grow by stepping outside my comfort zone. Being on live calls with clients, I was terrified to do that at first. It was like, these people have gone through years and years of schooling to do what they do. They're so smart. They're brilliant. They're amazing, and here I am like just feeling, gosh, what can I bring to teach them that would be of value, and being on the podcast, it's like, when you came to me with your thoughts and ideas behind it and how you thought it would be helpful, it was like, despite the nerves that I have and had, it was no question, like, yeah, I'm in. I'm happy to do whatever it takes. And if this is helpful for people and reaches people, I'm all about that.
I love that. I mean, and now look at, you're teaching like real sessions, like you're teaching multi-million dollar business owners, women and men really, but who have been through years of education, academic, clinical and they're craving like, my gosh, like advanced Excel work and like Google Drive and like the organization. I mean, all the things. I mean, I can't even go on of all of those, but I mean, it just goes to show, and I'll say thank you for doing this podcast, because I think it's really, yes, valuable, obviously, for as we talk. And I feel like you can preach and say, do this, do this, do that. But like, I want everybody listening to this podcast and who hears my philosophies and the things, like, I live that. It is important to me. Our company absolutely lives that. Like, you don't step out of line. And, you know, we refer back to our core values regularly. Like when we're looking at applications, when applications are submitted to work with us, and we ask ourselves, like, how do we handle this situation? Is this in alignment with our core values or not? Why? I mean, we truly do reorient around, you know, that of who we are every single day. And I think what's so great from the leader perspective of what you're saying, you know, about aligning with the mission is that, well, one, leaders, it's our job. Like, first of all, we have to set the stage. Like, if we're not sure where we're going, and this is why I teach mission, vision, values, like it sounds sort of woo-woo sometimes, but it's absolutely the anchor that tethers everything together, that brings your team all back into alignment, that brings everything you do into place. And I think that makes it easy for the rest of the stuff to come along, you know, where it's like our core values, challenge yourself to grow. You didn't have to think about that. Like, that's sort of what you're here to do. All of us are here to do, right? And for those of you guys listening to Shannon here, you hear how much she loves our customers, right? And she's here to show up. And we do this every single day for the people that we serve. And that is what the company stands for. Shan, I'd love to hear just some of your sort of experiences as you have been a part of this growing company, especially as it's just really gained a lot of momentum in the past few years and shifted and kind of taken on, I guess, a new sort of like life around working with women as well. What are some of your favorite success stories since you've been here at KLC as it relates to the work that our clients do?
Yeah, I think in general, a question that we hear on and off is, you know, it's group-based. Our flagship program, the Pop Leadership Academy, you know, they're group sessions where we're on together twice a week. And the feeling I get being around these women who are lifting people up, who are sharing best practices, who don't feel like they have to hide their secrets. They genuinely want to support and encourage each other and see everybody be successful is just really powerful. We open up a lot of times our sessions asking, you know, does anybody have a win to share? Experiencing and hearing about the aha moments that people have through mindset shifts, changing behaviors that they've had that are not, you know, in the best interests of the company. For instance, one of our clients in New York, she came on and was talking about how she had someone come in looking to sell her something or get her to switch over to a certain platform. And she said, you know, normally she would have felt bad or would have just said, okay. She took the emotion out of it and made a decision that was best for the business and felt confident and strong in that and didn't even have to think twice. And then looking back on it, I think she said a client was, you know, there kind of during the communication and was like, wow, you were confident in your decision and you handled that so well. And the feeling that she had, the confidence that she had in that decision was just really, you could see it. It was exuding from her. So it was just really, really an amazing thing to hear. And we hear things like that all the time. Or
real quick, I don't want to cut you off, but I just want to kind of piggyback on that one experience to put into some context, because what's so powerful about that is that, and why we share wins weekly, right, is we forget to celebrate those little things. And, you know, when you're going to the gym and like, it's like when you start a diet, right? It's like 6 weeks before you're like, you really see like that new body, but you've been working your butt off. Like you've been disciplined, saying no to things, turning down happy hours, like getting up early, showing up to your workouts, like you're doing all the work. People can't see that until like it's like delayed gratification. Well, it's the same thing when you're developing yourself personally, right? And so this is such a powerful example. I love this example, Shan, because what this is a woman who is strapped for time. Like, I mean, hello, raise your hand if like you have freaking no time in your life, right? Yet felt like, well, I need to be on the pulse of what's going on in our industry. Somebody's coming in to meet with me. And this may or may not be you, right? But like you could apply this in your life in a similar probably circumstance where you would take the 20 minutes or the 30 minutes to normally, even if you knew like it's probably not going to happen, but I'm going to take the time to explore this opportunity. And what this woman has done is put a boundary in place and stuck to that. And so what she's doing is she's going back and acknowledging the practice of the boundary, instead of just talking about the boundary itself. Or how many of you guys have said, like in the past week, I need to put some boundaries in place, right? Everybody says that. But what happens here is that you start to really link the daily practice of the effort that you're putting in to the progress that you're making. And that's why the work that is done inside of our academy, from my perspective, is the most powerful work. There's nothing like it, because it's practical and it's application and accountability based. It's not just learning a concept and then poof, like I'm better, right? There is no magic pill. It's putting that stuff into practice. So anyway, I just wanted to like piggyback on that because I love that example.
Oh, absolutely. And I think another thing that comes to mind, which we've already mentioned here today, is standard operating procedures. We've had multiple clients who have started working on them and have put them to practice. For instance, a practice manager in San Diego, she built a whole new hire training outline for a nurse that they hired. And, based off of what we've taught and what we implement in our own business. And it was amazing to her that she was able to give this new hire one document that had all the information they needed, what they need to be doing, when it needs to be done, by what date does it need to be completed. And it really not only allows for the person onboarding this new hire to put all of the information in one place and make it easy for them. It reduces questions. They have all of that stuff answered there for them. And it really empowers the new hire to feel like, oh, wow, this is my first week here. And I feel like I know what I'm doing and I know where I need to go and where I can find things. So that's another really great thing, since I'm so passionate about SOPs myself. I love to hear when people are working on those.
Yeah, I love that example too. And I think, look at how much more dialed in a company looks. Like that employee was going to get onboarded and they were going to figure it out, right? But the fact that they were prepared for her, and she had a welcome packet, and then she had one living document with links to all the resources and tools she needed, a little bit of preparation and planning ahead, puts the accountability on the employee to manage their progress through the onboarding process. And that's what you can evaluate, like them taking the initiative to onboard themselves and train appropriately within the company versus the come shadow me for a while and then let's just wait and see when they pick it up, right? Like it's really, you're actually putting that employee to the test, which is why I would say more of our clients know within the first 90 days whether that employee is going to work or not. I would say even within 30 days because of that, the way that we teach them how to onboard employees. So I love it. Yes, the systems queen over here. And so that's why we say like structure actually gives you flexibility. And I think that was like, early in my business, that was one of my biggest, I think, pushbacks. And like, I was fears, honestly, if I'm going to be honest, like, I'm like, I don't want structure because I want to be creative and imaginary and visionary and be able to change my mind. And I was so worried that the structure would like put me in a box, which I didn't want to be in, which is why I started my business. And I have learned through this process and with your help, Shannon, that it is so much more freeing and liberating. Like now we have a system for something. So if we want to build out a new project, we can anticipate a timeline. We know all the resources we need. We know the people, we know the budget, we know all of those things because there's a system for that. And it's like, wow, genius.
No, it's so true. And what I always tell people too, because it is a very overwhelming thing to think like I need to detail every single step of this task or this job description or this role in my business. But I think ultimately, and I feel this all the time when we onboard new hires, it is so dialed in. And yes, we put in the time to detail these and go through them and make sure that they are updated and accurate and working as they should. It allows and brings so much freedom when you're going through that process because all of the details are there and laid out for them. So I always say you will never regret writing out an SOP, and you will feel so excited and free and happy that you did, when not only are you giving that new person the tools to do the things that they need, but you're also taking time off of your shoulders and giving yourself more time to do other things because you took the time on the front end to prepare them and have that foundation there.
Little mic drop right there. I told you guys, practice what way preach. I love that. Okay. So I think like $1 million question is, because I think now people are listening and like, okay, now how do I get a Shannon? So like, let's talk about this, because one thing I think when you said I would do anything, right, for the company, like, or whatever, obviously within reason, I wouldn't ask crazy. I do ask some crazy things I'll say, but like, right, for the most part, having that someone on your team that's like, let's go, like I'm in. What does it take from a perspective of someone in your seat to build a team that is that contribution focused?
Yeah, I think really having a leader who is very clear on their mission, their values, the goal of the company, and reiterates that daily. We already talked about that, and you truly live this. It's taking the time to explain why a certain activity or thing that we're doing or new direction we're going, how it supports the overall mission of the company. And again, a leader who is genuinely supportive and encouraging of your success and supports you wherever you need it. Ask those questions. I feel like another thing that I have always felt here and is empowering to me is that you make me feel like an equal and a partner, and you welcome and are open to my thoughts and ideas. And you empower and entrust me to make decisions that come back to the mission and the goals of the business. And that makes it really easy to do because I understand the mission and where we're going.
Thank you. I love that. So yeah, it's like we keep going back to this idea of the mission. And I think it was so like today, Chad is going to Cooper's school to talk about Career Day, or it is Career Day. So he's going to talk about his company and like how, right? And so I was like, how are you going to get these kids like excited about alternative fuel, And it's like, so we were talking about that. Like, it's about how could being a part of that kind of an industry impact their lives in the future, right? And I think we saw this and had to really get a little bit more dialed in when the pandemic hit and people sort of had core shifts in motivation around work. And you and I are like, we're old school, like we just work hard. And I think that it's not that people don't want to work hard. They just don't want to work for no reason. And that's what I think from the leader standpoint, we forget is that we go in and assume everybody's working for a paycheck. And then we make everything about that. We make the hiring process about the tactics. We make the pay negotiation about everything about the pay instead of like the plan or the program of like who you're going to become when you work here. Players, like if you want a Shannon, if it was just about dollars and cents and she doesn't have to do this, right? Like you guys would swoop her up and there's no shortage of jobs for Shannon to do, right? Like I realize that I need to remind my team the impact that we're making every day, right? And like the lives that we're changing and where we're headed, So I think that I do appreciate, I'm hearing you, Shan, like a lot comes back to like, the leader has to take accountability to bring the team along with them and show them where they're going and give them a reason to want to accomplish that goal, or hit those milestones or go in that direction. When you think about, Shan, a thriving work environment, what are the things that are important to you?
Yeah, I think for me, communication is huge. And we communicate on the daily, not just about what's going on or who needs this or what needs to happen there, but it's communication about what we're doing and how we're impacting people and the mark that we're making in the world through helping our clients become more successful and be running businesses that they want to be running and empowering them with the tools to do that. I think it's positivity. I do not like to make mistakes and feel like I disappointed somebody by making a mistake, but it's the positivity and always putting one foot in front of the next, that mistakes are okay and mistakes are how you learn. And so I think feeling like this is such a safe place that when mistakes are made, we talk through, how can we do this better next time? How can we avoid this in the future? And learning from that is huge. And then fun. I mean, we have tons of fun. We laugh every day. It's a joy to do the work that I do every day. Our clients are amazing. Our team is amazing. And I think just having that alignment with one another is part of that as well. We align in our values and our work ethic and wanting to support our clients at the highest level. And then, of course, encouragement, being encouraged to and given the tools to go out and do your job in the best way possible. And when you do certain things and you think maybe nobody's watching, when a leader tells you like, hey, I saw you do this. I know it was outside of your comfort level. You did an awesome job. Like, I'm so proud of you. For me, that is just a huge piece of like, oh my gosh, wow, thank you. And it makes you want to continue to grow and do better, not just for yourself and for the company, but also, for your clients as well.
I will say too, it is a practice as a leader, right? The ones that are like constantly not really figuring their job out, you're in there all the time. But the ones that just get it done, you're kind of let them be. You're like, oh, they got it. Like, I know they're doing their thing. And sometimes they're doing things that you don't know how to do. So you're like, cool. So I will say, like, I love that you said that, because that's such great feedback for me. And I think a reinforcement for us business owners out there to remember that even our A players need encouragement and need praise on their performance as well, and reinforcement that they're doing the right things, right? Like, we all need that no matter what. So I love that part of it. And then I'll piggyback on the first part of the answer to this question about a thriving work environment. And you mentioned the ability to fail. And I had to work with a coach myself, right, to work on that, because I'm what some people will call a perfectionist. I don't think I am, but we don't think we are, right? And so we like to have things done a certain way. And we do, especially when we do them our way. We do it the way we want, right? And something that I have learned is that it feels counterintuitive, but really increasing your tolerance for failure as a leader provides this bigger runway for an employee to go ahead and make their own mistake and learn from that mistake and then grow from that mistake. And so employees, I think, as I have learned to become more willing for us to take risks and fail, I think that I have seen our team grow in more significant ways as well. And that old coffee table book, Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, it's all small stuff. At the end of the day, when you look back at like the last 5 years, like you'll look back at a chunk of time, everything's small, but it means so much in the moment, in the day, where you're like, oh my gosh, we mischarged that, or we forgot to do that, or follow up on that, or right, when you're like, we have things, this should have been done like that. And there are outliers within systems, especially when you build a really scalable, like just business that can boom and like really thrive. Something will go off and off track because the tracks are friggin' dialed in, right? Like, so it's easy. There isn't a wide runway. It's a narrow runway. And so you're going to head off and then you get back on and then you can go faster. And it's just like more fuel and momentum. And so I love that you said that, because I get like a little, we did that, like a little feeling. And I think if my fellow business owners out there are like, no, I got you on that. And I think that is one common theme of growth within the women who come through our programming too, is like learning how to just work at a higher level and let the team go ahead and get the things done that need to get done, instead of like being in the weeds all the time. So that was great advice. Thank you for that. How, Shannon, do you think a business leader could do a better job cultivating an all-in culture for their business? So like when we kind of talked about the employee side of it, how do you create this like sort of buzz in the company? Like culture is something you can it's this weird thing. Like you can't feel it, but you can, you know what I mean? Like it's so intangible, but it's just so palatable too. As a leader, like we're asked all the time, like, how do I create this culture that people want to work for, and for us, one of our core values being all in, right? How could I, as a leader, do a great job? And how can the women, that we work with do a better job of cultivating that kind of culture for people who come to work for them?
Yeah, I think ultimately having a leader that, and I've mentioned it earlier, makes you feel like a partner, that they're partnering with you in this business. It's feeling like they want to know how they can support you. They're willing to, I don't want to say roll up their sleeves, but they're willing to do whatever it is that needs to be done as a team. It's asking your opinion on when a certain situation happens or an issue happens. It's putting it on them to give a suggestion as to how they think to best handle a situation. And then from there, putting in your 2 cents as to supporting that or suggesting a different way maybe to handle it. And always explaining the why behind activities or decisions a business is making. I think really and that goes back to being clear on the mission and clarifying that with the goals of the business. It really helps to understand, the things that we're doing, how they're affecting the business and the direction that it's going. And then again, communication. I think having clear expectations of what's expected of them is huge, because I think ultimately most people want to be a good employee and want to do well for the business and for the business owner and perform their job at the highest level. So I think just having a really clear understanding of what's expected of them and how the company expects them to perform is ultimately the foundation for success.
Back on us, leaders. Yeah. No, I think sometimes there's like the fail point, and I've been there. And I think we learn this as leaders by failing, right? Like we sometimes we have great people who they're not getting success in their role. And a lot of times it's because we just have them doing the wrong thing. Either they don't know what they're supposed to be doing. So we're like, go figure it out for me. Figure out your job for me. Or we're not really sure how the things that they are doing are really impacting the business. Like we hear a lot of times, like, I don't know what my numbers are. Like, I don't know what my annual revenue is, or I don't know what our growth goals or whatever. And I think that's a normal place to be until you learn how to. So there's that. But when you're really dialed into, if everybody does this many times, that's going to impact the business in this way. Like it becomes more systemic and becomes scalable, from the standpoint of obviously financial scalability, but also employee scalability and time scalability, right? So like when we talk about for a leader, scaling yourself up, scaling your business up, but scaling yourself back, it does go back to, again, like having systems in place. And to your point, Shan, reinforcing every single day what the mission is and the why behind it. It's not that foo-foo la-la. Like, and I have been more, I think, just like bought into and believe in, now seeing it through the lens of the work with the clients that we have that are like, I'm out to accomplish something really incredible. And I think too, like when we talk about success stories, especially having relationships where we're working with women for years, right? And you look at like a Sarah Trammell of the world, who's like started her little beauty bus and then her little practice and now multiple locations, or we have our client in Pasadena who's like a solopreneur and just hired her first 2 employees, but like had everything dialed in and, ready to rock. Another one hired in Michigan, 2 employees, her first 2 employees this year. And that is no small feat. For those of you listening, we all remember like how challenging it is to take that step from it's me to I'm now going to have a real team of people on here. It's a big, big deal. So I love that. As far as the DNA of a mission-driven employee, when we talk about this, Shan, I want to thank you for giving all of your insights and sharing your wisdom with us. And I think it's just so powerful to look at all of this from another perspective. As we wrap up, is there anything else you would say that you would want to share, either, from your perspective of some of the initial challenges that people have? Like one that comes to mind in particular is hiring people and then the fear that they'll leave or the fear of not finding the right employee. Is there any kind of final thoughts you have around just the general philosophy behind building a team of mission-driven humans?
Yeah, I think one thing that comes to mind is, and we hear this a lot too, is I just can't find anybody. There's just nobody to hire for this. And I think people underestimate their network of friends, their network of people that they encounter on the day-to-day, people that they align with in life, and not shying away from, exploring if it might be a good fit for them or things of that nature. And I think, secondly, to the point of what if I'm scared to bring someone on and invest all this time and money in them. And what if they leave to go start their own business or go somewhere else? I think ultimately, those are things that we just don't have control of in life. And I think instead of being afraid and focusing on the what ifs in a negative way, it's spinning them in a positive way and changing your mindset to, if they do leave, look what I have built. I've built out a whole training outline. I've built out all of these SOPs. I have all these structures and policies in place, and I can dial them in even better for the next person that I'm going to bring on in my business. So I think it's not being so afraid of the negatives, and it's looking at the positive side of that work that you're putting in. It's not for nothing. It's all just going to make you better and make the company stronger.
So that gives me chills for so many reasons. One, yes, she's mine, people, but having somebody that can have your back through those moments. Like, I can't tell you, Shan, like how invaluable. I've cried on your shoulder many a times, right? Like, we've been through, it is not easy. And to have somebody that can look at and remind you the positive experiences that you've gone through, because failure is really a part of growth. That's amazing. And I was thinking, my massage therapist has a mug in her bathroom, or it's a candle, not a mug. That would be weird. It's a candle that says, what if it all worked out? Or what if everything works out? Or something like that. And I like, every time I'm in there, I'm like, oh, I should, if I had my phone with me while I'm sitting here on the toilet, I should take a picture of it. But I love that. Like, maybe we'll put that on a Fierce Factor hat or something. But I love that. Like, what if it did, right? And we so instantly want to go to the negative, but there's always positive in every negative situation. It's always 50-50. There is some juice to squeeze out of that lemon for sure. So there's some lemonade to make. So yes. I love that. Well, Shan, this has been such an amazing conversation. I so appreciate you. And I thank you for all of your insights. And I think we have a special freebie, right? For our Fierce Factor listeners. Shan has offered to put together a little freebie guide for you, the DNA of a mission-driven employee, where she's going to recap some of the things that we talked about here and give you some bullets and just some like food for thought in terms of how do I go into my next hire or approach my business in a way that creates this contribution-driven culture that will catapult my business through the DNA of a mission-driven employee. And that is how you will find your Shannon.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, Kaylee. It's a true honor working side by side with you every day. And this was really fun. So thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you, Shan. And where can people find that freebie, by the way?
Yes, that will be
Shannon.
That will be at klcconsultants.com/DNA.
Okay, great. Okay. I'll link that up in the show notes as well. All right, Shan, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Fierce Factor, and we will see you next week. Take care. Wait, before you go, if you're vibing with this conversation and want to join me on my mission to help 1,000 inspiring and intentional women cross the next $1 million milestone in their business this year, or maybe you want to become one of them, head over to Facebook and join our free community, the Fierce Factor Society. Over there, we are taking this conversation to an elevated level. Get access to resource guides, podcast supplements, and guideposts, direct communication with me and my expert team, and of course, a society of fierce women making big moves and disrupting the status quo in aesthetics and wellness. You can link directly through the show notes or head to Facebook and search up the Fierce Factor Society. See you there, goddess.